Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a review each week of what's going on in space. And today we'll be talking about the third week of November 2019. Our first story is Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin won a $3.3 billion satellite contract. It's an Air Force contract for communication satellites. They're called the Advanced Extremely High Frequency Satellites. And they're going to be built in California. And these satellites are nuclear hardened and jamming resistant and are important for maintaining military communications. The Space Launch System, the first rocket, got its engines. As you may be aware, the engines being used in the Space Launch System are the engines that were formerly used on the space shuttle. It's not the same design of engines, it's the actual old engines that flew the space shuttles. So the engines have been attached to the core stage of the Space Launch System. The first uncrewed test flight of SLS is probably going to happen in 2021. And this RS-25 engine design first flew about 40 years ago. Most space folk are familiar with the gateway that supports the return to the moon in the Artemis program architecture. The gateway will eventually have an electric propulsion system. And this is being developed, and they're making good progress on the electric propulsion engine, which is being built by Aerojet Rocketdyne. So the engine that you're looking at, it was tested at 12.5 kilowatts, which as these things go is a high capacity electric propulsion engine. The complete gateway wants 60 kilowatt worth of electric propulsion to be able to move the system and do station keeping. The testing of the system happened at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. The CLPS program is a NASA program to get payloads to the moon, the lunar surface. Mostly this is designed and intended for smaller payloads. But NASA has added 5 more companies to their CLPS program. This brings the total companies involved to 14. So there's a lot of firms that are offering a wide variety of capabilities and payload sizes, from pretty small all the way up to the SpaceX entry, which you see here depicted as the Starship landing on the surface of the moon. In the Starship case, up to 100 metric tons of materials delivered to the lunar surface. All the other ones are much smaller. The firms, the new ones, are Blue Origin, Ceres Robotics, Sierra Nevada, SpaceX, and Tyvak Nanosatellite Systems. With the same image, we have a quote from Gwynne Shotwell. And Gwynne, of course, is the president of SpaceX. And she said that they are aiming to be able to land the Starship on the moon in 2022. Now, many folks have talked about Elon Musk's timelines for things. There seems to be a consensus that Gwynne Shotwell's timelines are more conservative. So when she says 2022, it might actually be close to 2022 that this might happen. This would presumably be an uncrewed flight, just carrying cargo to the moon's surface. And there'll be a lot of things and rovers and tests and equipment that we'll want to take to the moon in advance of the first human return to the moon. And also in a related story, perhaps a year later in 2023, that is when SpaceX is talking about doing their flight for the Artist to go fly around the moon and return. SpaceX plans to build at least 6 Starship prototypes before they get around to the production Starships. Right now they have 3 in various stages of completion. One of their 3 Starship prototypes failed a pressurization test. and one of the bulkheads gave way, and that was what occurred. Nobody got hurt, and SpaceX has indicated this is not going to set back the program materially. The cause of the bulkhead failure has not been announced, but it seems likely to me that perhaps the weld was not properly done, something like that. So it may or may not require some sort of a redesign. Perhaps it's more testing of the welds might be one option. NanoRacks and Maxar are working on building space stations out of used second stages. And we have some experience at some aspects of this. For example, when we had Skylab, that was sort of a built space station that was launched as a second stage. What these guys are planning is something different. An actual second stage that was fueled and used as a second stage, then starting from that point to create a space station from it, to make it be a space station. So what the news is that they booked space on a Falcon 9 rocket to carry a bunch of CubeSats into orbit, and a construction experiment where they're going to practice cutting metal in space and the things they would need to do to convert a second stage into a space station. And this is called the Outpost Project, is what NanoRacks calls their space station from second stage program. So keep an eye on that. That'd be a big advance if they're able to pull that off. That's it for Space Headlines, covering the third week of November 2019. And we'll see you in a bit with coverage of the fourth week of November. Happy holidays.